Shalom. I'm going to tell you my thoughts on what's going on in Ukraine, and according to what I understand, spiritually, what's going on. So there's a story about the Baal Shem Tov. It's a famous story, and Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach teaches it the way he amazingly tells stories in such a beautiful way. He says that the Baal Shem Tov was going with his Hasidim on a wagon with Alexei, the wagon driver, that he was very much part of the Hasidim. That means he would listen to the Baal Shem Tov teaching on the wagon while he was going, and he wouldn't even face the horses. The horses would go on their own where they need to go, and he would listen to the Baal Shem Tov teaching the Hasidim. And so the story is they're going, and they go through this area in Ukraine, in this forest, and the Baal Shem Tov says to Alexei, he says, I love you, do you love me? And Alexei says, yeah, of course. So the Baal Shem Tov says, do you trust me? He says, 100%. So he says, I'm very sorry, but we're going to have to tie you up. And Alexei says, okay. The Hasidim tie up Alexei, and the Baal Shem Tov makes sure that he's tied up very, very well. And they keep driving in the wagon, and they pass this place, and all of a sudden Alexei starts screaming and trying to break the ropes and get loose, and he's going absolutely crazy. The Hasidim don't know what's going on. They're praying or whatever it is. And so after a while they pass this place, and Alexei calms down, and the Baal Shem Tov says, okay, you can untie him now. And the Baal Shem Tov asks Alexei, what were you thinking? And Alexei says, I have no idea what happened to me. I just went crazy. I really wanted to kill all of you. And the Baal Shem Tov explained, he said, this place that we just passed is the place where Cain killed Hevel. Now, Rabbi Shlomo tells a story, and he says, I don't want to in any way take away any of the responsibility for what the Ukrainians did in Babi Yar. But in case you don't know, Babi Yar is in Kiev, and it's in the Ukraine, and there's a memorial there because over there they killed the most Jews, and they also killed a lot of other people there. So that was, and there's a memorial there. It was in the news because it was hit nearby. There was a big antenna, and the Putin's army shot that antenna. It was right, and it hit near the Holocaust Memorial of Babi Yar. But it's more than just a memorial, that place. According to what I understood from the way Rabbi Shlomo told the story, Babi Yar is the place where Cain killed Hevel. And there's an energy there that whenever people that are somehow have a sort of like a spark of the soul of Cain, they're in that area, they go crazy and want to kill. So that's one story of Cain and Hevel. Now we know that according to the Zohar and the Sod, so Cain was reincarnated and Hevel was reincarnated. So Cain was reincarnated into Yitro, and Hevel was reincarnated into Moshe. There were a few reincarnations, but we have the story of Moshe and Yitro. Now, according to the Medrash, not everybody knows this Medrash, when Moshe came to Yitro in the beginning, Cain um, for whatever reason, he didn't trust or like Moshe, and he wanted to kill Moshe. Yitro wanted to kill Moshe. And he tried to by putting him in a pit, and he put Moshe in a pit without giving him any food, and he assumed that he died. But Yitro's daughter, Tzipporah, gave Moshe food every single day and kept him alive. Until long after that, long time passed, and she says to Yitro, she says, "You remember that guy, Moshe, that was in the pit?" He says, "Yeah, what do you mean remember? He's probably dead." He says, and she's like, "Yeah, well, I want to marry him." And he's like, "What? If he's alive still, you can marry him." And so Moshe Rabbeinu came out alive and married Zipporah. Now, we see here again the same thing. The soul of Cain was wanting to kill the soul of Hevel, but this time it didn't work because Zipporah intervened and saved him. Now, here's another thing that we don't know so much. This is also according to the Zohar and the Sod, is that Cain and Hevel were actually, what was the fight over? One of the things that it says in the Medrash and in the Sod is that there was twins and triplets born with Cain and Hevel, and each one had and the triplets and twins, there were girls. There were 3 girls and 2 boys. So Cain marries one girl and Hevel marries another one, but the third girl was supposed to be for Hevel, and Cain was just wanted her. So they were fighting over this girl. And the story is that this girl was actually Hevel's soulmate, and she was also reincarnated, and she was reincarnated as Zipporah. Zipporah was Yitro's daughter. And when Moshe went back, he married Zipporah, he had 2 kids, he went to Egypt, but then sent them back because it was dangerous when he's fighting, arguing with Paro. So they went back to Yitro, and then Yitro came to Moshe Rabbeinu in the desert with all the Jews, and he brought Zipporah and Moshe Rabbeinu's 2 children to Moshe. And spiritually, what this fixing was is Yitro was admitting to Moshe that this girl, Zipporah, is your soulmate. So he was one of the fixing was that he actually didn't kill Moshe, and 2, that he actually admitted that yes, I'm actually bringing them to you, because he could have just stayed there and not gone to meet Moshe and not brought Zipporah with him, and saying, "This is your soulmate. I admit that your soulmate is for you." Now, the next story that we hear about Cain and Hevel is the story of the Baal Shem Tov and Alexei. So apparently Alexei had a spark in him of Cain, and Baal Shem Tov, somehow a spark of Hevel in a way. And when Cain is going through this area where it still is full of this energy of wanting to kill, it just made Alexei go crazy and want to kill Baal Shem Tov and all the Hasidim and everybody. So it's a combination of like the person, like the soul, the spark, and the place. This is a place, and both need a fixing. Now, with Cain and Hevel, God says to Cain, it says, "I know you're angry. I know that you're planning to kill him. I know that you're upset at him," and all these arguments. He's saying why he's angry at Hevel was just a cover-up. Rashi says that when he says he spoke to him, and then when he was in the field he killed him, Rashi says that he spoke to him starting up an argument. And the argument really wasn't anything to do with what the real issue was. The real issue was he wanted to kill him. So a lot of these arguments of, he did this, me, him, it's really just God is saying you have an evil inclination and you have to overcome it. You have to overcome it, you have to fight it. Now, what happened is Cain actually did kill Hevel. It didn't work. Just saying, don't do it. So obviously God meant not just for then, but for all the generations, because we still have to fix this Cain and Hevel. The world of Cains and Hevels have to fix this thing of not killing. So by the first time around, it was God just spoke to Hevel and spoke to Cain and told him, control yourself. The second time, Tzipporah didn't speak to Hevel, didn't speak to Yitro. She just saved Moshe which is Hevel, saved by giving him food. The third time around is more active. Is the Baal Shem Tov is tying up Alexei. Even though it was friendly, but it was tying up. And now we have the same fight, this desire to kill, all around the area of Kiev. So the gematria of Babi Yar is the place in Kiev where they killed the Jews. So Babi is Bet Aleph Bet Yud, which is 15. Now listen to this. Putin is Pei Vav Tet Yud Nun, right? Putin, and then we have Cain, Kuf Yud Yud Nun. So Putin plus Babi from Babi Yar, which is the location. Putin plus Babi is Cain. Okay? So when you have the place where Cain killed Hevel together with Putin, which is apparently, it seems like he has a spark of Cain in him. But when he gets to this area where Cain actually killed Hevel, he can't control it. And he's just going crazy wanting to kill. So, in this case, right, so what do? Right? We know what's going on. So for one, there's the first thing that God said. He said, look, you should know that you just have this urge, you have to control it. That's not quite enough. There's Tzipporah feeding Hevel, giving Moshe Rabbeinu food. I guess you can say that's giving food to the people now in Ukraine. Third is like tying up Alexei. That would be like trying to restrain Putin without harming him, or the Russians, like attacking but restraining. However you can do that, it's sanctions. But it seems like if this is another scenario, it could be up, more than that, which I'm not sure exactly what it is. But there is another thing that Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach teaches about Cain and Hevel. He says Cain was so angry at Hevel because God accepted Hevel's sacrifice, and he didn't accept Cain's sacrifice. So he was upset at Hevel, he was jealous. But why was he so jealous? Because, why do you want to kill him? Because he was feeling, you know, if Hevel knows how to serve God correctly, why doesn't he teach me also? He's my brother. Why is he keeping it to himself? So what Cain really wanted is for Hevel to teach him how to serve God. And when he doesn't, he wants to kill him. He's just so angry and so jealous. So it's really our job to teach everybody who doesn't know how to serve God, to teach them the way to do it, right? So if you look at Putin and Zelensky, he sees, right next door to him is Zelensky's Jewish. He should be teaching me, he's my peer. What can be closer? Ukraine is very much like Russia, right? You have a Jewish leader. They should be meeting and learning Torah together. He's so angry at Zelensky because he's not teaching him, right? I mean, Zelensky should invite him to come to Uman, to get a tikkun by Rabbi Nachman's kever. It's in the Ukraine, right? Zelensky is basically trying to be a good Ukrainian. He doesn't realize that they really want is a good Jew, a proud Jew, teaching the world Torah, what they really need. He has opportunity. I mean, the whole world is looking at him as a hero. He has to be a Moshe Rabbeinu. He has to teach the world about God, teach Putin, right? That's what Putin really, really wants. I mean, we know that Putin is not anti-Semitic. On the opposite, he was very grateful that a Jewish family was treating him so well and basically raising him when he was an orphan child. And he wants more. He wants really to be taught. And don't think that Cain is just some barbaric, stupid, nothing. Or completely evil. No, it's something that needs to be fixed. And we need to fix it before Mashiach comes. We have to, that's part of the fixing of the world. Like we fix the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge. That's something we need to fix. There's all these broken things in the world that we need to fix in these generations to bring the world to complete redemption. One of them is fixing Cain, right? And the fixing of Cain is to teach him, right? Like God was teaching him, you have an evil urge that's stronger than maybe other people. They have a different urge to do bad things. Your urge to do bad things is to kill, right? You have to work on yourself and control it. And you have to learn from Hevel, right? So Hevel has to teach, Cain has to learn. That's what we have to do. Now, how this is going to all end, well, we don't know. we just can look back at what's happened in previous generations, previous reincarnations. We can look at the future. We know it's going to be good. We know that Mashiach is going to come. How exactly it's going to happen, we don't know. But we do know what we're supposed to do. Okay? We're supposed to teach the world. We're supposed to teach the world Torah. We're supposed to teach the world how to serve God. And it's very interesting that of everybody in the world, there's all these world leaders. They're all looking at, they're asking Israel to try to mediate. Zelensky wants to do the meetings in Jerusalem because they know that this is really a spiritual fixing that needs to be done. It's not whether it's Bennett or anybody else. There's this feeling that there's something going on here that they don't exactly know what to do with, how to control it. I mean, the world is closer to mass killing than has ever been before. I mean, if you look at Russia has been building up nuclear weapons for years. When it was the USSR and they were in Kiev, they were the most dangerous. When Russia broke up and Russia doesn't have Kiev anymore, over all these years, there wasn't a threat of nuclear war, right? Now that Russia is going back to wanting to have control of Kiev, all of a sudden the alert of nuclear war goes up. That means the place of Kiev, Babi Yar, that's a place where Cain killed Hevel. It has a very strong effect on people that have the soul spark of Cain, right? That if they're in the same place, they just want to kill everyone in the world, and it's a real threat, right? And the way to stop it, for one, you definitely don't want to have Putin in Kiev. That should kind of be prevented. Because then he'll just, if he's there, he'll have more of an urge to kill. The other is somehow dealing directly with Putin in a way that's with respect and with friendly, and teaching him, in a friendly way, from a place that he also respects, for his own benefit, that this is what he really wants, is to learn. He thinks that he's making up his own arguments that he's justified, just like Cain made up his own arguments that he's justified to kill Hevel. But the truth is, he just wants to learn how to serve God, right? And he's just so angry that we're not. I mean, there's so much more that we can do. He's put out, messages to, people. He likes the Jewish people and and wants to learn from us. We need to sit down and learn with him and teach him. And it's not only Putin. Right now, that's the leader, but it's really everybody in the world. We all have to fix this Cain and Hevel in us and between each other. So we should have a good Purim. Everything should be turned over, and be prepared for great things. I mean, whether we like it or not, however it happens, the redemption is coming, Mashiach is coming. We see that Jews that were in Ukraine are now in Israel and Eretz Yisrael, and that's the thing that needs to happen. And really, it should happen without having to have suffering. But we see it did happen with suffering. I mean, minimal, thank God. Like, almost very few people were hurt, but they left everything behind, came to Israel. So this is something that's going to happen. Now, if we look at it this way, it's better to come back to Israel without being forced. It's just more comfortable. So that goes not just Ukraine, and now it's spread to Russia. Russia is becoming harder to live in, and people want to leave, and it's harder to leave. But people are talking about war spreading to the rest of the world. Israel's staying out of this, so we're not going to be going to war. They talk about, before Mashiach comes, there's a story of explaining how Israel is going to be so strong when the rest of the world is so much stronger. Well, the rest of the world can fight each other to death. There was this rabbi, to show what he meant. He said, all of you people bring your chickens, your roosters to fight, and I'll bring mine. So they all brought their 70 strong roosters. The rabbi brought a tiny little weak rooster. And roosters, when they see other roosters, they start fighting, except for the weak one. He knows he doesn't have a chance. He stands by the side and hides in a corner. In the meantime, all 70 of them just pecked each other to death, and they were all of the 70 chickens were collapsed. And then this little tiny chicken comes out of his hiding place, this tiny little rooster, and he's fine. So now that's not obviously the way we want it to happen. We don't want the whole world to fight in order to come out on top. We want the whole world to understand that killing is not the right thing, and to do that we have to teach them. We have to teach them Torah. Okay? And that way we bring Mashiach, we bring the redemption without wars and without fights. We've just transforming the world without having to fight. Now, we do see that there is right now a fight going on that could spread to the whole world, and that could be the way the redemption comes. We should try to stop that. We should try to have the redemption come in a peaceful way. So either way it's going to come sooner or later. Let's just work on doing it the peaceful way. The peaceful way is, instead of being forced out of foreign countries and coming to Israel, just pick up, buy a ticket, move all your things and come here. It's very simple. We see if the Ukrainian and Russian Jews would have done that 3 weeks ago, they would have had a much better time, much easier, much more pleasant time doing it. And right now I'm not, being, how can I say, overreacting by saying you should do this now, because it's in the news. Everyone knows this, that there's a risk now. Now's a good time, to come. Even if you're not 100% ready to totally move here, you can come here for a bit of a vacation, maybe move some of your time and business and family here. You still have time now to do it, gradually, and come here for the summer or something, and whatever it is, try to work remotely for a while here, right? Try to do it in a pleasant way, and hopefully nothing drastic will happen. But the more you people come here to Israel, the less there'll be the spiritual need to do drastic things to bring you here. And the other is to realize that we have a spiritual requirement to teach, right? It's not enough to just do your own thing and be Jewish at home and, hide your real purpose. Your real purpose is to be a teacher, and that goes for every single Jew. Our purpose is to teach the rest of the world. Okay, it's where there's about 500 non-Jews to 1 Jew. You have a lot of work to teach a lot of people. You have to teach 500 people. And I don't know if you know, but if you look at all the other philosophies, religions, whatever in the world, and you look at the Jewish Torah with all the Kabbalah and the Zohar and everything, all of the other philosophies and religions and everything put together is it's nice. They have lots of short, simple, good sayings and advice, but sort of things like be kind, be happy. It's all good stuff. It's really taken from the Torah, but there's not a lot of information. We have thousands and thousands of books full of hundreds of pages of amazing wisdom, okay? And not all the Jews even know all of the Torah. Not all the Jews have studied it and know it and even know that so much exists. But that doesn't stop Hevel from being angry at you for not teaching him. Okay? So we really have to do this. We have to teach the world. So, anyways, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to have a good Purim, and V'nahafochu, we're going to turn everything over for the good.